أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the second episode of A Drop from the Sea, short ulama stories from this book of Ayatullah Shubayri Zanjani. In the first episode we covered two scholars, and in this episode we're going to inshallah try and cover two short stories of two different scholars. In entry number 3 of this book, he mentions a very short story of a scholar by the name of Shaykh Khadhir bin Shallal Afqawi Najafi. Now, in the footnote, he says that some people call him Shaykh Khidr, right? Khidr is a well-known name, but he says that some of the Arabs used to call him Khadhir, Shaykh Khadhir, Kha with a fatha and Dad with a kasra, Shaykh Khadhir Shallal, and he says it seems this was the correct pronunciation of his name. Now, Shaykh Khadhir bin Shallal Najafi died in 1839, and he is a contemporary to Sahib al-Jawahir, same Sahib al-Jawahir who was also mentioned in the first episode. Now, this story, Sayyid Shubayri says that, I'm quoting from Shaykh Aqa Buzurg Tahrani. Aqa Buzurg Tahrani is one of the really important scholars of the last century. He was known for his works on bibliographies, manuscripts, and essentially one of his most famous books is called Az Darya, and he has other books as well, right? So one of his other books is called A'lam al-Shia. Now, this A'lam al-Shia is a book which is divided into different sections, and each section has a specific chapter title in it. So when he comes to the chapter which he calls Al-Karam al-Barara, so the chapter name is called Al-Karam al-Barara, he talks about, he says that I heard from my teacher. So Aqa Buzurg Tahrani says, I heard from my teacher, Aqa Shariat. Now, who is Aqa Shariat? Aqa Shariat, his full name is Shaykh Fathullah. Shaykh Fathullah, ma'roof be Shariat Isfahani. Shariat Isfahani is the what he was known for, and he died on 8th Rabiul Thani, 1339 Hijri. So just about 100, just over 100 years ago. Aqa Buzurg Tahrani says that I heard from my teacher, who said that when I was young, so the teacher is quoting himself, he says, when I was younger, or in the beginning of my student life in the Hawza, I could not afford all these books. I didn't have the money to purchase books. And then sometimes when I needed a certain book, what I would do is I would sometimes go and borrow books from my teacher, whose name was Sheikh Muhammad Hussein Kadhimi, who used to live in Najafi at that time, and I used to go borrow books from him. When I would borrow the books, I would use the books and then I would return them. One day, I needed the book Al-Qawa'id of Allama Hilli. And I said to myself, I should go to my teacher and borrow this book from him, and then once I'm done using the book, I'll return it back to him. While I was walking to my teacher's house, I passed by the grave of Shaykh Khadhir Shallal. So I passed by his grave. And at that time, it was famous in Najaf that if you read Surah Fatiha for him on his grave, somehow you will get a dish of rice. Okay, somehow someone will give you a dish of rice. It will come to your nasib. It will come in your sort of sustenance, in your risk. Okay. So I was, and he says that the qabr of Sheikh Shallal is basically towards the bazaar. So towards that direction. When I got there, when I got to the grave of Shaykh Shallal, I realized that, it's daytime and it's very, very hot right now. And most likely my teacher is probably resting and sleeping. So I should probably go a little bit later, because if I go now, he's going to get disturbed. So I said, okay, I'll just wait here for a bit. I'll wait at the grave of Shaykh Shallal and I'll read some Quran for him until it's a little bit, later, and then I'll go and get the book from him. So I sat at the grave and I started to read Surah Yasin or some other surah. And then eventually I actually just said, let me go to the house of Sheikh Muhammad Hussein. Shaykh Muhammad Hussein. I knocked on his door, and I didn't hear any response. Nobody opened the door. I waited a little bit and then I knocked on the door again. Sheikh Muhammad Hussein opened the door himself, and he had the book al-Qawaid of Ulema in his hand, and he gave it to me. And he said that I was actually sleeping and I was resting, and in my dream, Shaykh Khadhir Shallal came to me and he said that there is a so and so person coming to you and he wants the book of Qawaid. He needs it. So now this Sheikh Muhammad Hussein is gonna say that when I was sleeping, so when you knocked the first time, it actually woke me up and I was gone looking for that book. So that's why it took me some time. And then by the time you knocked the second time, I had gotten the book and I brought it for you, and basically here's the book for you. Okay, so and then that's the story that Sayyid Shubayri says, explains, or sorry, rather mentions for Shaykh Khadhir, and then that's it. It's a small entry. Now, once again, you can search up Shaykh Khadhir. This is like in Farsi, on Wikifiq. There's a little bit of it's not a lot of detail about him, but he has one book called Tuhfatul Gharawiyya, which is a commentary on Lum'a. You can find a scanned version of it online if you Google it. But essentially, that's what this book, that's what Sheikh Khadr was all about. So once again, sometimes these ulama, like you don't necessarily need to know so much about them. But the fact that there was a scholar like this, or there is a scholar like this, and they have a book or two that you can actually find online as well. When you start going into, or when you're interested in just kind of looking into the, like for example, his book is on a commentary on Lum'a. Now there are many commentaries on Lum'a. Lum'a is a fiqh book, right? And when you're doing advanced level research, you might want to actually go and look into what Shaykh Khadr had to say. Like if you're writing a commentary, you're probably gonna at least add something new, hopefully, to the previous commentaries that exist. So essentially, what this story does for you is it just opens up another pathway, into this other scholar's life, and who was he. It forces you to go read up on him a little bit, and now you know that, hey, there's this extra commentary that actually hasn't really been published, right? It's still in its original manuscript format, but hey, guess what? You can find it online. The scanned manuscript, you can find it online, and then if you're interested in reading it, you can kind of go through it. So that's that. The fourth chapter is about Sheikh Hasan Kashif al-Ghita. Now, Kashif al-Ghita, I have to kind of give you this intro a little bit before that. Kashif al-Ghita is a really large family, just like we had the Sadr family in the previous episode, right? Sadr family is a big family. Kashif al-Ghita is also a really big family. So when somebody says Sheikh Kashif al-Ghita, you kind of have to make it clear, like which Kashif al-Ghita. There's a couple of Kashif al-Ghitas, right? And this page on Wiki Shia will give you a very nice summary of that. Now, the Kashif al-Ghita Ayatullah Zanjani is talking about, it's not Jafar Kashif al-Ghita, it's not Musa bin Ja'far Kashif al-Ghita, it's not Ali bin Ja'far Kashif al-Ghita. It is this one, Hasan bin Ja'far Kashif al-Ghita. Okay, so the story that that Sayyid Zanjani is mentioning is of his, born in 1786, passed away in 1846. Okay, so you can read a little bit. You can read up about him over here as well. He lived in Hilla, and he went to Najaf and began teaching there. And these are his works. Anwar al-Fiqaha is one of his main books, and in fact, in the footnotes over here, right, in actually the footnotes. So essentially, this story will be. I'll tell the story, but essentially over here, Ayatollah Zanjani says that Ayatollah Zanjani quotes Sheikh Mamqani. He's quoting Mamqani, and he says that some people had an ikhtilaf, difference of opinion on who is a'lam, who is more learned, Sahibul Jawahir or Sheikh Hasan Kashif al-Ghita. And he says, look, anybody who reads Jawahir, right? Jawahir, the book that Sahib al-Jawahir wrote, and if they compare it with Anwar al-Fiqaha, they will know that Anwar al-Fiqaha is actually stronger, right? So we're talking about like really advanced works, and within then, only like a specialist will be able to figure this out and give such an opinion. Anyways, that's not really the story. That's just a footnote over there. So the story is as follows. The story title is basically the benefits and advantages of being familiar with the fiqh of the Ahlul Sunnah, being familiar with the Sunni fiqh basically. Okay, what is the story? Ayatullah Zanjani says that I'm quoting this story from two people. Okay, two people, and they both narrated the story to me. He doesn't say they're narrated to me. He says I'm narrating it from them. Okay, so over here it's not very clear. How did he narrate from them? Did he hear it from them, or how? It's not clear over here. But their names are Agha Jawad Musavi Zanjani and Abul Fadl Musavi Zanjani. Okay, and they narrate the story from their father, Sayyid Muhammad Zanjani, who hears this story from Hasan Sheikh Mamqani. Now Sheikh Mamqani died in 1933. Okay, so the whole story is from Sheikh Mamqani. Sheikh Mamqani says that, look, by the way, Sheikh Mamqani didn't see this Hasan Kashif al-Ghita. He didn't see Kashif al-Ghita. So, he's quoting the story. Maybe it was part of this oral history, oral transmission that had come down to Hasan Sheikh Mamqani. Okay, what does he say? He says that, look, this is very important. He says that in the past, the Imami scholars were so strong in their fiqh, and it was known that you must be strong and you must be familiar with the fiqh of the Amma as well. Amma means Ahlul Sunnah. And the Shia scholars, the Imami scholars, they would refer to their works as well, the Sunni works, and they would bring their opinions and quotes in their own books. Sheikh Tusi, Alama Hilli, even Muhakkik Hilli, and this continued all the way till the time of Shaheed Awwal. And after Shaheed Awwal, they didn't really feel much of a need to keep quoting the Sunni scholars. By the way, if you kind of look at the historical timeline, essentially the era that this kind of stopped was when the Safavids came, right? When the Safavid Empire came in Persia, that's when this distinction happened, and the Shi'i Imami scholars stopped really stopped quoting Sunni opinions and their usul and fiqh. That whole disconnect happened. So Sheikh Mamqani says that, look, I believe that this is not good, and in fact our scholars should always be they should always have grasp over the fiqh of the Ahlul Sunnah, because sometimes situations arise and incidents happen, and if you are not familiar with their fiqh, you can get into trouble. You won't be able to navigate yourself through that situation. Okay, and he says, and I'll give you a story to show you why it's important. He says, in the time of Sahib Jawahir and Sheikh Hasan Kashif al-Ghita, there was a Shia man who lived in Baghdad, and in this coffee house, in this cafe, in the presence of everyone, he started to curse the wife of the Holy Prophet, Aisha. Started to curse her. So the Ahlul Sunnah, okay, Baghdad is heavily Ahlul Sunnah. They take him, they basically, grab him, and they take his case to the judges, okay, of that time, and the judge said that we have to execute this person for his kufr. We have to execute him. And because that time they were part of the Ottoman Empire, and the Ottoman obviously were Ahlul Sunnah, but the execution order had to come from Istanbul, okay, which was the sort of main headquarters for the Ottoman Empire, and the Shaykh al-Islam was over there as well, and he must sign it and all of that. But then they said that, look, because it is a Shia person who is charged of this crime, the signature has to be given in the presence of a Shia jurist as well. A Shia jurist must be present. So the governor, the city councillor of Baghdad, sends a message to Najaf, and they say that, look, you need to send somebody here. Send some of your scholars over here, one of your scholars here, who can kind of be present in this gathering, and we can sign off on this order. Over there, people start saying, maybe Sahib al-Jawahir should go, or maybe Sheikh Kashif al-Ghita should go. It was not clear who should be going. And most people said that, we think Sahib al-Jawahir should go. Okay. So Sahib al-Jawahir and Kashif al-Ghita, they both start discussing, and they say, let's figure out who should really be going, right? Because people are putting pressure. People are saying that Sahib al-Jawahir should go because he's more famous, he's more well known. But when they discuss, Kashif al-Ghita says that, look, do we even know why we're going? What's the topic? What are we going for? And Sahib al-Jawahir says, I actually don't know what the topic is. They just summoned us, and we were supposed to go. So Kashif al-Ghita says, look, listen, because we don't know the topic, because we don't know the mawdu, the subject of matter of why we're going, if you go, if Sahib al-Jawahir goes, and let's say the topic is something that Sahib al-Jawahir is unable to respond to or unable to fix, the damage will not just be for Sahib al-Jawahir, rather the damage will be for the entire Shia community, because Sahib al-Jawahir is a much more well-known figure. So Kashif al-Ghita says that, hey, it is actually more ihtiyat, it's more precautionary more precautious for me to go, because we don't know what the issue is, and if anything, if I lose or if something happens to me, it's okay, it will just damage me, it won't damage the general Shia community. Okay. And he says, ihtiyat inas kiman berham nashuma. The ihtiyati thing to do is let me go, so if any damage happens, it just happens to me. So then that's what happened. Kashif al-Ghita goes, and he goes with a person by the name of Haj Mirza Nasrullah Shakir, okay, who also has a sort of a diary that is written by him, and he also records this entire story. Okay, so he was present in this gathering. So this person who is accompanying Kashif al-Ghita, he also records the story. And then over there, when he gets to Baghdad, okay, he gets to basically Baghdad or Qazimain. He gets to Qazimain, now where there's a Shia community. He starts to ask them what actually happened. So the Shia community starts telling him that, hey, this is what's happening. It's all about an execution order for this guy who cursed one of the wife of the Holy Prophet. So from Qazimain, he goes to Baghdad, and he gets into this gathering with the governor, and some of the judges are also there, and all the Ahlul Sunnah are there, basically witnessing everything that's happening. Over there, the judges, they start signing off on the execution order, and they sign it off. And these city councilor or city governor is also there, and essentially, basically, they go. So what Sheikh Hasan Kashif al-Ghita does in this time, he goes to the person who is charged of this crime, and he says, listen, pronounce the tawbah. Okay, repent for this crime that you have committed. And this person also does tawbah. Now, when he does tawbah, Sheikh Hasan Kashif al-Ghita says to the city governor, and the judges over there, that, look, the person has, you signed off before you gave this person a chance to do tawbah. Okay, so let me explain, what does this have to do with Ahlul Sunnah? We have a scholar by the name of Ibn Junayd. Okay, Ibn Junayd, in fact, many people say he is one of the first ever jurists of the Shia community. Now, the thing with Ibn Junayd is that, actually, I'll show you what is up with Ibn Junayd. There's an entire article that I have already on Iqra. Qiyas and the mysterious case of Ibn Junayd. So Ibn Junayd is a very interesting character, very interesting individual in our history. Okay, and one of the things about Ibn Junayd is that he's accused of believing in qiyas. Now, qiyas is something that Ahlul Sunnah do, and especially Abu Hanifa is sort of well known for it. What type of qiyas he does and all of that, there's a lot of details over there. But question is, did Ibn Junayd really believe in qiyas or not? So there's an entire discussion on it. I will link this also in the description. You can check it out. There's a lot of different opinions. As you can see, it's a pretty long article. Actually, this is not an article. This is my class notes that I took in one of my classes in Bastul Kharij. This many, like 5 lessons that I attended on this topic with my teacher, Shaykh Khadhir, and you can check out all the notes there. So okay, so what does that have to do with Ibn Junayd? Sheikh Hasan Kashif al-Ghita says that, look, Ibn Junayd's opinions, a lot of his opinions are very similar to Abu Hanifa. A lot of his opinions are very close to Abu Hanifa. So Ibn Junayd used to believe that when someone becomes an apostate, And if they are, so there's two types of apostates in Islamic law, the way they define it. An apostate who was sort of born Muslim and then they leave religion. And then there are apostates who were not Muslims and then they become Muslims and then they kind of, leave basically Islam. So he says that Ibn Junayd also used to believe that a murtad fitri, basically a murtad who was a born Muslim and then they left Islam. They say Ibn Junayd used to believe that you have to give them an opportunity to repent. And any execution order for this apostate before you have given them an opportunity to repent is not valid. So Kashif al-Ghita says, because Ibn Junayd's opinions are very close to Abu Hanifa's, because of his approach to fiqh, Abu Hanifa probably, or most likely, had the same opinion. So he says this, and then, and because the governor was Hanafi, they were usually all Hanafis, they said to them that, hey, look at the fatwa of Abu Hanifa, okay, and based on the fatwa of Abu Hanifa, you must give this murtad, this apostate, an opportunity to repent, to do tawbah, and you have signed off on the order before giving him the opportunity, and therefore the execution order has no merit, has no legal force, basically. So the judges over there, they say, no, this is not true. And Hasan Kashif al-Ghita says, go and grab the books of Abu Hanifa. So they bring the fiqh books and they see that Abu Hanifa says that istitaba is a shart. Okay, istitaba means the opportunity to repent is a condition. So the city governor gets very angry, he gets upset, and he says that, do you not have any shame? You're taking the money of the government and the wealth of the government, and you're not even familiar with your own fiqh, opinions, school of thoughts. So and bayad biyan bishuma yad bedan, do these people, do the Shia have to come and basically teach you? So Sheikh Hasan Kashif al-Ghita says that so basically this case is over because this person has already repented, he has pronounced the sigha of tawbah, and essentially the paper is torn apart, and that's it. Now the city governor embraces Kashif al-Ghita, he starts to respect him, he puts him close to him and all of that, and he says, what, do you have any requests? Kashif al-Ghita says that, look, my request is basically this, that look, at the end of the day, even though the execution order is nullified, but emotions are obviously high, people are gonna basically lynch this guy as soon as he leaves this jalasa, this court, right, this sitting that we're in. So somehow we need to get this guy out safely. So the governor basically gives some sort of a protocol that allows Sheikh Hasan Kashif al-Ghita and that person who was charged of this crime to basically escape safely from that place. So that is the story of Hasan Kashif al-Ghita, where he was able to utilize, because of his sort of understanding of the different fiqh schools of thoughts and Ibn Junayd and his closeness to Abu Hanifa, not in terms of time, but in terms of the approach and the type of fatwa that he gives, he was able to essentially utilize and use the fatwa of Abu Hanifa, right? One of the opinions of Abu Hanifa was basically when a person becomes an apostate, you must give them an opportunity to repent, and if they repent, then you can give an order. Then you can say whether you can execute him or not. Obviously, you cannot execute a person like that. So, according to that rule, so that's what happens when you have grasp over the fiqh of the Ahlul Sunnah. So that's just as I said, like a very short story that talks about the importance of having grasp over the fiqh of the Ahlul Sunnah. As I said, I am also planning a series called Eras of Fiqh, which is going to talk about the different eras of jurisprudence within the Imami school of thought. And inshallah, I will discuss some of these ideas there a bit more in a bit more detail about which type of scholars would sort of look into the Ahlul Sunnah fiqh, when did they stop doing that, why did they stop doing that, and how after Ayatullah Burjardi there was once again a sort of revival to look back into the fiqh of the Ahlul Sunnah and why it's important, why it was relevant. Okay, it's not just because of incidents like these, but also because of it just helps you do ijtihad in a much more thorough way. So inshallah, that's all for today's episode. We'll continue this series later on. I'll see you all in a future episode. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.